Hello, everybody. My name is Bruce Montgomery, and this is my colleague, Tracy Priest.
Hello, everybody.
And we're with The Road to Retail. On our podcast, Tracy and I hope to offer tips, insights, ideas, and examples for how small, emerging, and challenger CPG, consumer packaged goods, brands can build their business. Everything from determining if you're ready to grow, where to start, how to prove it online, how to go about securing distribution at a national retailer, driving your business with the end consumer, and how to go about finding an investor if that's important to you. The bottom line is, we would love to help you be successful by highlighting the many important factors that go into establishing and growing your brand.
Bruce and I have been working in CPG commercial operations for over 30 years, working on brands of all sizes. By commercial operations, we mean sales, marketing, trade marketing, new product development, broker and distributor management, new product development, brand M&A, and financing. As a part of our show, we bring our guests that are brand founders and leaders, agencies, Amazon specialists, sales agents, contract manufacturers, retailers, and investors to discuss their experiences and share their insights with the audience.
To keep up with the show, please subscribe to the Road to Retail podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Leave us a review and consider sharing the show with a friend or colleague that may benefit from the content. You can also check out our website to learn more at www.road2retail.com and follow The Road to Retail on LinkedIn. We would love to have you along for the ride.
So Bruce, tell us about our newest sponsor.
Glad to, Tracy. Tired of getting crushed by chargebacks each time your brand sells product? From dealing with hundreds of forms that all look different to fighting tooth and nail to get repays, managing deductions is tough work. And you're almost certainly leaving money on the table. Fortunately, there's a solution. Floret was built to help brands like yours. With Floret's software platform, you can automate your deductions workflow, get insight into your trade spend, and even have your deductions disputed for you. Whether you're a scrappy young brand trying to break into retail or an established supplier looking to get sharper on trade, Floret will put money back in your pocket. We've saved brands hundreds of thousands of dollars this year alone. Visit www.tryfloret.com to book a demo and learn more. That's www.tryfloret.com.
Again, we encourage you to subscribe to our iTunes or Spotify channel at Road, 2 Retail.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Road to Retail, where we discuss great topics within the CPG industry with our friends and colleagues and brand owners. And so, Bruce, good to see you today.
Tracy, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to this episode. So tell us about who we have today on our show.
Today we're joined by Patty Post, who is the founder and CEO of Checkable, which is a very interesting firm doing some home healthcare diagnostics, which she's going to tell us about. So Patty, welcome to the show and thank you for your time today.
You bet. Thank you so much for having me. So great to be on.
No, that's great. So before we dive into Checkable, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about your background and what you were doing before you reached the point of irritation and said, you know what, if no one's going to offer these products, I'm going to do it myself. So what were you doing before?
So I was in medical device sales, and I had 8 years of working in capital equipment sales, going from hospital to hospital in Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, had a little bit of North Dakota, South Dakota, and then actually got recruited to a clinical research organization where we took class 3, class 2 medical devices from concept through to commercialization, had preclinical labs, biocompatibility, ran the regulatory clinical. And then right before I started Checkable, I was working for a firm for a couple of years in a consulting role, running business development to acquire medical device customers. to help them with commercialization strategies, strategies to help their sales reps go through the hospital buying process, working with materials management, VAT committees, things like that, value analysis committees. And I'm a mom of three. So I became a mom when I was 22, and we have three kids. And that's how I really came up with Checkable, because I was a working mom, super frustrated with the status quo of having to go into the doctor every time that my kids had a sore throat.
Awesome. Love it. Love it.
That's quite the background. So, not only were you a frustrated mother, you were a frustrated mother with a pretty juicy background right down this road. Tracy, so let's find out more.
Yes, absolutely. So obviously being an entrepreneur and starting a brand is not for the faint of heart, as you've probably figured out. So tell our audience today what made you take the plunge and start this business?
I think the pain point of being super frustrated with the status quo. You see lots of big companies developing medical devices, rightfully so. It takes a lot of regulatory, clinical, and compliance to get a product through. But I looked at the opportunity of, could I go and give this to another company and then sort of be that entrepreneur? And the model never worked unless I did it myself. And I'm from Minneapolis, or the Minneapolis area. And so I talked with a lot of angel investors, talked with BD groups within in vitro diagnostics, but as well as class 3 medical devices. Think of Medtronic, Boston Scientific. And really everyone said, yeah, go for it. And everyone is kind of pushing you like, yes, you should do this because you cast this big dream. But no one knows how hard it is prior to actually getting into it. And so you mentioned something about creating a brand. Creating a brand is sort of one offshoot. We have so much compliance work and regulatory work that we need to get through even prior to commercializing and getting that FDA clearance. So it takes on average to get a medical device cleared 7 years and $32 million. And I was fully aware of that going in. So I would say I'm a little crazy, super optimistic. And I am not a person that shies away from hard work and putting long hours in and strategy in. So I think all of that combination and being frustrated and having a really big vision and never losing sight of that is what got me to this place that I'm at today.
So it's interesting. We hear a lot that, I ran into these people that were so supportive. It's like, yeah, Patty, why not skydiving? That sounds really good for you. Let us know how it goes.
Yeah, it's crazy because some of the people that really encouraged me never ended up writing checks. And so that's really where the rubber hits the road is, okay, are you willing to cut a check to invest in us and what we're doing?
Yeah. So you've touched on this a little bit, but just to push a little further down, what gap or opportunity did you see in the market? And I don't know if you want to talk about some of your other products or focus on the Strep Test today, but what gap did you see in the market that led you to think there's a product line here for whether it's the working moms that, I mean, you said you have three children. So after the first one, you're sort of a junior varsity doctor. It's like, he's cutting teeth. He's got an earache. Why do I need to take a half a day off, go to the doctor, sit there for 2 hours and, then go to the pharmacy. So tell us a little bit about what led you to do this.
I think the evolution of healthcare and really I would call myself a Zennial. I'm born in 1980, so I've used technology. I used it in high school and in college, but I still remember the days when I picked up a dial phone or had to do a rotary phone at our lake cabin. So I see that the same is true with healthcare, is that we relied so heavily on our healthcare system. And over the years, There's been the opportunities of just think of a Minute Clinic. And in Minneapolis, Minute Clinics are in every Target store. So you have your opportunity to see a primary care provider per se. You have your opportunity to go to the pharmacy, and then you have your opportunity to go and use an over-the-counter medication or product. And I just saw that there was a gap there, that we have so many drugs. We have bandages and Band-Aids and ointments, and there's really not the opportunity to diagnose anything from home. I was really the OraSure HIV test really was monumental when it came out. And I remember reading about that, as well as 23andMe, Ancestry.com, all of these products that you can go into a retail setting, purchase, and then go to the privacy of your own home to diagnose. And as a woman, you have your pregnancy test, and that would be the first diagnostic really that I used. And so that always was the proxy for me of, okay, I can buy something in the store and go home and diagnose. And I think everyone just is really familiar with that. And what you go from there is, okay, I'm going to run the tests, and then I'm going to diagnose. And then what do you do next? And that's really the biggest why we don't see at-home diagnostics a category. But COVID happened, and I happened to already start the company in 2019. And what do we see in, the late half of 2021, 22, 23? We see billions of dollars that are in the retail channel through COVID-19 testing. And we saw that people could change behaviors. And what I was thinking with an at-home strep test was working with a COVID-19 test. And still today, the retailers love the COVID-19 testing, and they're actually creating categories. That's the at-home healthcare, at-home care, at-home diagnostics. Every retailer names it something different, but they're actually moving it. It's sort of down the way and around the corner from OTC. And now they're actually moving it next to OTC, which I think is really going to be a game changer, because right now you have to sort of search for them.
Mhm.
And if you have the other proxy would be insulin strips. And if you're a diabetic, you know that you heavily rely on them, but it's the same. I keep using the word proxy, and in my mind, it's the same proxy as an at-home strep test.
Awesome, awesome. So we talk a lot about on the show about differentiation and how important that is in a category. So talk to our audience a little bit about your product differentiation amongst, versus maybe some of the other products on the market.
Mm-hmm. I think the differentiator is that you can actually screen for strep at home rather than just masking a symptom with, it's lanacane, or you have a cough suppressant of a cough drop, is that you're relieving a symptom, but you're not diagnosing what it is that's making you sick. And that's what I think in your last question, you asked me, how is it different and how has healthcare evolved? And I think that healthcare providers are not as accessible as they once were. We're also more busy. It's also the out-of-pocket is so much more expensive than what it used to be to see a primary care provider or even walk into an urgent care. But there's so many barriers. And with an at-home strep test, I look at it as you're actually screening for what that symptom is. Because if you have a bacterial strep infection of a group A streptococcus, you need an antibiotic to cure it. And that's our differentiator, is that we're actually going to give you results, positive or negative, and then you make the decision of what you do next. And we actually say in our labeling, go see a healthcare provider, whether you're positive or negative. This is giving you peace of mind when you're home. Oh, yeah, it is strep. Okay, let's go in right now so we can get that antibiotic.
You're really
And
putting
Patty,
the healthcare decision in the hands of the consumer,
Correct.
which is awesome. And I think you would agree that's where healthcare is going.
I think so too. And I think with the evolution of telemedicine, Telemedicine has been around since the 70s. Actually, it was invented within the armed forces, but now we are using it as actually a standard of healthcare. And with at-home diagnostics, we're actually empowering that provider to write a treatment plan. Where right now they're just looking at symptoms, open your throat, say, it looks red. Okay, I'm going to give you an antibiotic. And really that's going against stewardship of antibiotics because the symptoms of a viral infection and a bacterial infection in the throat, they're very close symptoms wise, visually.
So, Patty, marrying those two things, when we had our pre-call, I think one of the innovative things you were talking about was the QR code on the box that once the person in the house, I'm going to assume probably incorrectly that a majority of these might be used on kids. So the mother or father would shoot the QR code and tell us how that's going to work, because I think that's super interesting and it marries the 2 points you were just making about home diagnostics, but still needing to be involved with a healthcare professional.
So just backtracking on that, it's about 50-50. You'd be surprised with looking at claims data, age 5 to 17 and then 18 up. It's about a 50-50 split of the age range of who has strep or who is going into the doctor for strep, which is about 36 million visits a year. I know it really is. It's the kids that then give us strep. So I don't know where we're all contracting it. It's usually the kids they're very good at sharing.
Yes.
Now I can't remember your question, Bruce. I'm sorry.
The fact that you guys were incorporating the QR code into your packaging.
Yes. Really, that's for the opportunity to watch your videos of how to collect a sample, how to run the test, interpret the results. And then if you want, see a healthcare provider for that treatment plan. So really, you never have to leave home. With what the retailers are doing now with delivery, half an hour delivery within a certain distance of the retailer, you can have your antibiotic delivered and administer it and then get that kid to school the next day. That was always my goal, is that, okay, if they're sick, I want to know what's wrong with them. And then I want to get them back into school and I want to get back into my routine as fast as possible. So the QR codes, we just did a usability study, and QR codes have really evolved in years, because I did studies 3 years ago and no one cared about a QR code.
No.
And now if you see it, you're like, oh, I'm just going to pull up my phone. Even my parents, who are 83 years old, they use a QR code. So I think that it just gives a user experience. It enhances that user experience with a QR code and giving them visuals and digital opportunities that didn't exist before.
Yeah, it also, in my opinion, a sample of one, it builds credibility for you and your firm, right? Because you're not saying, oh, just do this and then you're off to the races. It's do this. Now you have a better understanding of what you have. And here's a couple of potential options. And if you believe you're positive, here's a link to talk to a telemedicine expert to get you on the way to, feeling better, or the person in your household. So Patty, as we evolve from the genesis of your idea, talk to us a little bit about how you're thinking about sales channels and why you're thinking brick and mortar ahead of what's, a lot of emerging brands, they go DTC first or Amazon first to kind of cut their teeth and get their pricing right. And if they make any mistakes, maybe there's fewer people watching. When you go immediately to like Yankee Stadium to play, going to a Target or Walmart, not a lot of margin for errors if you get some things wrong. So tell us how you were thinking about that.
Well, with strep, you have the symptoms and you want immediate relief or immediate understanding. So your action is going to be, okay, I'm going to go into the doctor because they're going to use a rapid strep test and then they're going to tell me positive, negative, and then you'll have a treatment plan or not. I wanted the same opportunity, and that opportunity doesn't exist if you're going direct to consumer. you would have to load the pantry early. And we just look at such a small segment of the population are that we call them preparers, and it's less than 20%. So moms are making 83% of all healthcare decisions. So if I just take moms aren't looking at things that are preventive. Oh, I should stock my medicine cabinet and have all of these things. And with our price point, if looking at the $29.99 to $39.99, I've always known that it's going to be in that price range because that's a copay. That's what we need for our COGS or to make a margin. And looking at retail was the best opportunity for us to get to the consumer and have that relief. It does offer more risk. I look at it as an opportunity, but it's, in my mind, go big or go home, especially with creating a category like this and a first market mover advantage. We don't really have time to sit on the sidelines and play safe. So that's where I've been bringing in the right partners for the last couple of years who have been amazing to me, but have really shown me what the data is with the COVID tests, how they're moving, where they placed. That has given us a great understanding of where we need to be at.
Well, we had some experience in a prior life with a product that was used as a pre-medical procedure, let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And to make sure that the numbers worked, one of the things that was what you just alluded to, Patty, is as long as you could stay below the copay,
Mm-hmm.
people would opt for the OTC solution, not only because it was immediate, but because they didn't have to jack around with, paperwork. And as copays have gone up, 50, sometimes $75, it's much, who wouldn't want to go to Target, Walmart, fill in the blank and solve a problem for $35 without all the rest of the hocus pocus to go through.
Definitely. Yeah. And we sell in a 2-test pack, and something that I've always been very bullish on, because if you test negative once, keep that test, because if the symptoms continue to persist, test again in 6 hours, 8 hours, whatever it is, then you have it. Or if you test positive, then you have an extra test. And I think that's really important for the consumer as well.
Great.
That's great, because if your kid has it, the chances of you getting it are probably pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
We're back to sharing.
Yes, and that's really when I started the company. I had multiple visits over the course of 2 years, multiple times in the same week. I was taking different kids and then myself to get checked for strep. And one of the worst times was when we were up at our cabin, and it was a beautiful Saturday in July. And I sat there with my daughter for 6 hours and waiting to get checked for strep. And my boys had had it earlier in the week. And we had just moved to a high deductible health plan. And so everything was out of pocket. And I'm ending up paying over $1,200 for these 4 visits with antibiotics. And it just is like, and coincidentally, about 6 months prior to that, my boys had contracted lice from baseball, like baseball helmets. They're baseball players. And I got it. And then all the kids got it. And about Christmas time, we had to spend about the same amount of money to get professionally the lice taken care of. And I just look at these situations as, these are real life events that they're not glamorous, but they are very frequent in American families. And if we can do something to relieve that, I just had it in my heart that I'll be that person, be that crazy.
Yes, that's awesome. So I know you have some other products on your website that you make available, but they're not available in retail. So maybe tell our audience about, why you've chosen to not bring those to retail.
I had every aspiration of going to retail with those products. And so I have a fortunate I have some really fortunate relationships where people have been very, very good to me. Doug Stukenborg is on my advisory board for a number of years. John Piney was someone that I was introduced to. So both of them are former Target executives, and being in Minneapolis, I really relied on them early on. And they introduced me to the Emerson Group. And so Emerson, I sat down and said to Roger Gravite and Scott Emerson and said, I'm going to take these to retail. And they just looked at me like, what are you doing? Why would you do this? And Rob Casanardi, he said that too. Like, and I just looked at them like, why would you not? And it sort of sunk at the time. Like, I just felt really defeated. Why would these products not work? You know, you put so much effort and emphasis on that during the time of development. And they just said, your hero product is the Strep Test. Keep on doing what you're doing digitally. Have low spend, but really monitor that. And if you want to spend more and you want to have bigger sales, go for it. And that was actually the best gift I would say, in my career that I've really ever gotten. Because I think I would have risked the entire company if I would have done that, because I had no idea I was swimming with sharks during the time. And really the ad spend and media spend that I was up against with the other companies, there was no way I was going to make those products turn. I probably would have been left with a lot of products and not be able to create the awareness that I needed to get them off the shelf.
Well, that was sound counsel, and the Emerson Group are good friends of the show, and we've had Scott and Rob on in the past. So, Patty, you've made a significant investment into the R&D, and you shared with us on our pre-call about the I hate using the word journey because everyone does, but your game of getting this thing through and approved and to the market. So is the recovery of this R&D investment built into your pricing, or do you just think that it's a cost of doing business? It's a sunk cost in order to do something truly breakthrough that's differentiated in the market, as Tracy spoke to earlier with you?
It's definitely built into the pricing within that first 2 years for sure. And we have gotten some pressure from retailers. And they've shown us the data that when the COVID tests dropped in price to that even $15 mark, and some of them are even lower now, that their velocity was a lot greater because of that price drop. That's fine, but they don't have to recoup the R&D like we do. They all got by with the emergency use authorization. So the EUAs, a lot of people are familiar with them. Number of subjects in their clinical trial was 100. Ours was 1,200. It was first, we had 19 clinical sites. I mean, the amount of R&D that we had in that clinical and the regulatory work that we're doing now really to say back to the retailer, yes, we understand this is our price. We do have R&D built into it. And we also have media spend, where I don't think a lot of the COVID tests are spending any money on media. I mean, we've never seen a commercial, a digital ad.
Why would they?
Right?
Why would
So
they?
why would they? You don't need to. But we're going to need to create awareness. So it's not an apples to apples comparison when they compare us to the COVID test and what has been done to their pricing strategy.
Well, I got to tell you, it's good for you for sticking to that and taking the sound counsel you've been getting probably from all the folks that you've mentioned, because on the one hand, the retailers might be pressuring you to think about your pricing, AKA lower, but I'll go out on a limb and say that Checkable might have a little less money than Pfizer or Abbott. And the other thing that retailers are always asking for is innovation. You're bringing that. And the second thing they ask for is, Patty, we better see a good demand plan to drive awareness and trial so that you meet velocity hurdles. So, Harry Potter probably doesn't work for Checkable, so this stuff doesn't happen by magic.
Right. I mean, the amount of research that we've had to do really to understand that forecast and the velocity and to confirm that what our thinking is the right thinking for when we get to retail, is for investors, for retailers, for business partners. That's been a substantial investment as well.
Right. Yeah. So you kind of touched on a little bit about demand, or Bruce did, about demand plan. So talk to our audience a little bit about the marketing vehicles you use to drive, awareness and trial on Checkable.
Mm-hmm. Well, we haven't done on our direct to consumer. We are really focusing on Amazon. It's the most controllable for us. And it all comes down to your product page and your images and that text on screen and your reviews, which is something that if I can go into this for a second, is
Sure.
we had a UTI test, or we have a UTI test, and on the front it says easily connects with telemedicine. And we had our telemedicine live for about 3 months. It's very expensive to operate telemedicine in the background, because if you think about it, you're paying a group of providers to sort of sit on call. And when a customer demands to see someone, and it's an asynchronous model, so they're just inputting some questions, but there is a provider on the other end. And so for 3 months, we wanted to trial this of how many consumers would purchase the UTI test from Amazon, and then how many went back and actually used the telemedicine. Well, unfortunately, they thought that for the $18.99 price of 3 UTI tests, that included a telemedicine visit. We never said it in any of our listing,
Right.
but in the front, it says easily connects to telemedicine. Well, if you get to somewhere and you realize that you don't have that feature that you thought you had, and you thought that the price of $39.99 for a telemedicine visit was too expensive, you're not going to leave a great review. So this is something that 23andMe had when they launched into Target, that you would buy the set for $60, and then you would come home, do your blood draws, send it in, and then they would ask you for another $120 to receive your results. People were irate, and rightfully so. That seemed like smoke and mirrors to me. So for us, when we had some negative reviews, that was really hard to come back on, for us on that product. And that we're running R&D, and our mission is to be the first over-the-counter cleared strep test. There are some levers that I have to just pull back on and just say, okay, we're not going to have as big of demand for this product, because we're not going to have those 5-star reviews. You get 2-3 bad ones, and it's going to pull your listing down. Unfortunately, I think it's just it's a very risky business.
Mm-hmm. So Patty, when you talk about being kind of creating a new category here, and I'm focusing on the strep test that you and your team are working through, with really a first to market product and kind of baking a new category or subcategory of home diagnostics, however you'd like to think about it. How are you thinking about forecasting demand, pipeline inventory, safety stock? A product like this, I'm assuming, has dating. And for the folks out there that don't know what that means, it means a shelf life. Many products in the OTC space, depending upon what the active ingredients are and the form, have shelf lives of anywhere, usually a minimum around 18 months. Sometimes you can stretch it out to 3 years if your product's, incredibly stable. But how are you thinking through that? And then how do you manage retailer expectations, your suppliers? Because no one really likes to hear, you know what? We're going to figure it out. We're brand new. We're not really sure how it's going to go. And then I'm assuming, and you're going to tell me because I know I think I know, I'm assuming strep's probably somewhat seasonal to cough cold season. There might not be a lot of strep at 4th of July, but I could be wrong. So, if they cut you in March, you're kind of getting cut in right at the dead period when they start evaluating you, and they go, geez, Patty, in 90 days, we haven't sold much. Yeah, it's summer, dude.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So that planning has been very interesting, because every retailer has a different strategy, right? And where are they placing the product in the store? There's a couple of retailers that want multiple placements. So all of those types of conversations make me really excited. Like, great, you want the product in multiple places. And then I go back to the forecast. I'm like, wait, okay, so then one store, there are going to be 6 in every store. And then wait, you put that over 2,500 stores, and then they need safety stock. I mean, it is really getting to, we're having monthly planning meetings with our retailers. But looking at the seasonality, I would love it if FDA cleared it where we are just moving into the cold flu season, because it's seasonal, because that's when your kids are in school. So it is more that October until March, April timeframe. There certainly are spikes of strep. They just had some in the South, about the southeast side, North Carolina, South Carolina area, Virginia. But those are all things that supply chain it's going to be our next hire. When we have a better indication of what's happening with our clearance with FDA, our next hire will be a supply chain management person. But that's where we rely on Emerson. I have my advisory board, and supply chain is, like, I think, the most risky part of the business once you get to commercial, because if you fall flat, you never want to go to a store and not have any product. But then you also don't want to go to a store and it's not moving. And I don't want it sitting in DCs where
Burning, yeah, burning
yeah,
dating, burning
yes,
dating. Yeah, we've interviewed a couple of firms that, help people fund inventory from major retailers. So, that's interesting. Another thing, Patty, to be alert to, and, the Emerson Group, they've paved the road to retail for small brands, but a lot of people, and I've been one of them in the past, you hear about dual placement in a retailer and you get all excited and you're all happy. And then at the very last minute, you either need to come up with a new SKU or you have to have 2 different UPC codes, because they'll
yes,
say, well, Patty, how will I know which location is selling better?
yes.
It could be one could be over in cough cold and they could have another over in home diagnostics. But if you don't have a different UPC, or one's a 3 count, one's a 2 count, that they'll say, Patty, where did we sell better? You'll say, I don't know. It's your store.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right.
But you
And
got to
that,
watch out for that last minute ask, because if they want you to hand apply a new UPC, your cost of goods are going straight up, my friend.
Mhm.
yeah. Oh, and I just think of, I had some small startup companies before this, and we got a little backed up just in the data collection side of having multiple UPCs, and it was a mess. And I was just a tiny little company, making $20,000 a year. Just think of that on a scale 1,000x. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a conversation I don't get. I've learned now not to be too optimistic when someone says, yes, we want to place you pharmacy and OTC and in at-home diagnostics.
There's a
Well, and
cost to
another
that.
another thing Tracy and I always talk to people about, Patty, is, sometimes you got to say no. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes if they get really excited and want to go in 2,000 stores that first year, it might be better to do 400 or 500 and make sure you know how to win.
Mm-hmm.
Because to your point, the more stores you have to do with 6 pieces, that's all your capital out the window, sitting in a warehouse somewhere. And your remaining money is spent lighting candles at every church of every denomination in your town, hoping that it works.
That's a good
Oh,
one.
Bruce comes up with the funniest things. But anyway, um, yeah, I wanted to just echo, it's the hardest thing for brand founders and entrepreneurs to say no,
Hmm.
but it's so critical. So anyway,
Yeah, I
let's
had
go
on the
ahead.
margin piece, we've had some conversations of saying, because retailers want to have a certain margin,
Oh,
and
yes. Mhm.
looking at how much margin. And if I didn't know this phrase, and you probably know, or I don't know if it's a phrase, but penny profit. And we're not a product where they're only making, 6 cents a piece. They're making significant money every piece. So our margin isn't going to be as high, but the dollars within that margin are much greater. And so we've had to push back on some of that feedback.
That's a tough conversation to have with a retailer.
It
So,
is.
so, so, folks, before Tracy asks Patty about contract manufacturing selection, one of the things Patty just alluded to, which we speak with lots of guests about, is make sure you understand what success looks like and how the paper is going to be graded. Because what she just said is really interesting.
Yeah.
Some retailers look at units per store per week being sold, others look at dollars per store per week being sold. So if she has a high dollar ring, she can get away with selling fewer units.
Mhm.
So, but it's really important because, and we've had retailers on the show that they say, you know what? Sometimes people don't even ask me what success looks like. So
Mm.
don't be shy understanding because it's your risk. It's your risk. So, and that's also not a secret. These retailers, as Tracy and I say all the time, if they're taking the quote unquote career risk to put you in, they don't want you to fail. They want
Right.
you to win. But
Yes.
everyone needs to know what the equation looks like.
Hmm.
Absolutely. So, Patty, as Bruce mentioned, talk to us a little bit about, how you conducted your search for a contract manufacturer and what was the criteria you were looking at picking out a contract manufacturer.
I really wanted a US manufacturer. The in vitro diagnostic um, manufacturing is primarily in China. And I had already done another business where I was importing from India, and I didn't say this in the beginning, but I did work for UPS for 6.5 years and had a extremely great career there. And I know what it's like when you're importing. And I just felt that for the integrity of the company, as well as for supply chain planning, that it would be better to have it all onshore. And so that's how I chose our manufacturer. And it is more of a partnership, what we're doing, because we are using a strep test that has already been proven in clinic for over 20 years. So doctors already trust it, clinicians already trust it, and it already is confirming strep in 98% of strep tests or strep cases are confirmed with a rapid antigen test, which is ours. And so that's how I chose our manufacturer.
Gotcha.
And
Great. Bruce?
yeah, very, very interesting. And with things are ebbs and flows. Years ago, Walmart had a big checklist of anything coming from China, whether it was the shipper or an ingredient, and then other countries from time to time end up in the kind of penalty box of what's coming from where. So keeping it in the US is it eliminates some of the uncertainty from your plan. Okay, Patty. So one of the things all brand founders and challenger brands want to know, talk to us a little bit if you've raised money or if you're in the process, what filters are you using in terms of looking for in an investor? We have people say, all I need is a check. I know exactly what I'm doing. Other people want, value added capital. Oh, Tracy's really knows Walmart. He's worked there forever, blah, blah, blah. Or he was a 20-year employee. How are you screening potential investors in your business?
So with a high risk pre-cleared device, I really have to look for investors that are willing to lose it all. It's very clear in my investment documents because we are 100% dependent on FDA clearance of a class 2 medical device. And in my years of in clinical research and in consulting, I watched a lot of founders pitch their class 3 medical devices, and everyone knew that it was very risky. It's a long road, it's very expensive. That my investors, that was really the first box to check is, are you willing to lose this investment? And everyone, yes, we are willing to lose this investment because you have to be upfront about it.
Right.
And from the side of, do they have industry experience? Can they invest their time in the business? I don't have investors like that. I have my advisory board, and then I have consultants and employees that fulfill those roles. So I don't have any investors that really have experience. That they are in, some of them are in healthcare, some of them are in financial services, some of them are entrepreneurs like myself. But that hasn't been something, I don't think that an investor is ever going to invest in something because they want something out of it. From my experience, and I've had family offices that have primarily cut checks, and that's just hasn't been something that I've pursued, is investors that could give back to the company per se.
Right.
Yeah, well, to your point, if you guys you're still working through the process, and pre-revenue makes most investors, their precious models blow up, and they're like, "Wait a minute, there's no sales.
Right.
My model doesn't work."
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
And I want to say this to our audience, and Pat, you brought up a good point. Even though you don't have investors that, have that are value added, you have a board of directors and you've surrounded yourself with great, smart people, MPG being one of those, to advise you. So
Mhm.
you're not going this alone
Right.
by
Oh no.
by any stretch of the means.
No, not at all. And looking at my evolution as a founder over the last 6 years, I think that I wasn't confident enough early on of, how to do this, and I felt like I needed to pull people in just because they had experience.
Mm,
And for a founder listening, I think a lot of people are really good at being the armchair quarterback. They're like, oh, you should do this, you should do that, but they have zero skin in the game. And a lot of people want to get paid. So consulting agreements happen. And if you are a consultant, it ends up that you're going to have to do some work, and there might be doing work where you don't need the work to be done. And my advice to founders is, take a step back, and do you really need to cut that check to that consultant, or if it is an advisor, whatever that is, because you can get, um, you're in a position for a reason, and be confident in that, and don't let imposter syndrome take over,
right.
and really surround yourself with people that know what they're doing, but don't diminish your own courage and knowledge.
Sure. Yeah, great. And I meant to say that at the Emerson Group. So tell us what's the best. You've given us some great advice for our founders. Tell us what's the number one advice you'd give a founder just starting out?
Alluding to what Bruce was asking about fundraising, um, there's no secret sauce to it. There's really no science to it either. That's a place where you can get backwards with consulting agreements and paying people to pitch, and doing these things that you think are going to sort of put you in the spotlight. And it's no different than my capital equipment sales days or my sales days with UPS. You really have to show up every day, and you have to show up as your best self. And when you
Great advice.
don't feel like it, and when you feel nervous and you feel unprepared, that's when you have to step out more than any other time and show up. And you never know who you're going to meet. Even if it's not an industry event, show up in a like industry event. You never know. So I think that high activity, as well as diminishing that imposter syndrome, is what the secret sauce is for to be successful as an entrepreneur.
Great advice. Love that. Bruce?
yeah,
Yeah,
you got to show up like every day's the seventh game of the World Series.
correct.
So Patty, who's had the greatest influence on your career, and what did this person, you don't have to name a name if you don't want to, but what did this person do for you that's really stuck with you over time? And you're like, man, I didn't realize it at the time, but I can't believe she invested that much time in me when I was green as grass.
Oh man, I have had just absolutely amazing people invest in me, and they saw something in me that I didn't. And I don't, I mean, like, it's weird, but I have some really formative men in my life. I mean, my dad, my brother, my husband, even my son now is 21 and he's teaching me things. I have one investor, actually two investors that have, oh my gosh, like three, as I keep thinking of this. Uh, I just have people that have really believed in me and spoken life into me and allowed me to be my best self. And if there was one woman that believed in me. It was my first sales manager at UPS. And she put me out with, in front of the whole district, they chose one rep for the CEO of UPS to ride along with. And she put me out there. She said I was the best person to do it. I was managing some pretty big accounts, and I had just landed a $5 million deal. And here's me in my little Honda Accord with two car seats in the back. And I pick up Mike Eskew, who is the CEO of UPS, and I pick him up at the Minneapolis airport. And there's probably some goldfish in the seat. No, I cleaned my car, for sure, cleaned my car really well. But I brought him along to, a title company that was sending check. I mean, they were doing like 6,000 pieces a day. Gander Mountain, if you know what that retailer is, back in the day, Rip, no longer around. But yeah, I took him out, and I think of how she put her neck out for me. And I was, 28-year-old mom with two kids, and it was very formative in my career. And he was delightful for being, CEO of a top 20 company in the US, 100 years company that I got to sit and drive him around Minneapolis. It was great. And he told me to keep going. And he told me about family as the absolute core of everything that he does. And no matter the ebbs and flows of business, that he can always come back to his family. And I believe that too. I saw it with my mom and dad staying married, and I've been married now for 22 years with three kids. So I think those are really formative people early on in my career that really helped me.
What an experience to ride with the CEO of UPS at 28 years old.
I
Wow,
know, isn't it crazy?
that is nuts. That's
I'd have
And I
nuts.
been
wish
hor I'd have been horrified to put a CEO in our family car with when the kids were all little. There had to be like Jurassic French fries in the back seat somewhere.
Well,
Somewhere.
that's what, when you're a sales rep, you're pretty used to having people ride along with you. So I've had it like
Oh
my whole
yeah.
career, right? Like your driving skills should be top notch, and your car should be too, because it definitely is a reflection of your personal
Yeah.
hygiene and how you take care of yourself. But I definitely had rode around with some reps where I was like, it was Diet Mountain Dew bottles and potato chip bags. So we were in a good spot.
Awesome.
Uh,
I love it. Well, we're rounding third and heading home here, Patty. So, our fun question of the day. So, tell us who's your favorite sports team, band, or brand and why you support them.
Uh, okay. My favorite brand is Cheers, and I listened to your episode with Brooks on, but I've had an opportunity to get to know Brooks and Shelby, and they are amazing. I mean, from a dynamic duo, like family business, going into retail and direct to consumer, creating this brand. I mean, I think they both are super intelligent, driven. So that would be my favorite brand. Unfortunately, so I quit drinking, I don't know, almost 3 years ago. And I actually went to go get Cheers at Walmart in Fargo, and they didn't have it. And I was like, what's going on? But I understand, like, it's a retail strategy. And I just really admire what they've built, and their foundations of who they are.
It's awesome.
Yeah, Brooks has almost no energy to promote Cheers, and he's been on the show as you said, and
Mhm.
we've had the chance to spend some time with him at some meetings, and he's another one like your UPS chairman. I mean, family first. He loves Cheers, but they're a distant second to what he
Yeah,
has going on.
yeah.
So so Patty, quickly, how can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more and learn more about Checkable? What's the best way to touch base and again find you personally or learn more about the business you're building?
So on socials, I'm Patty Post CEO, and I'm Patty with a Y. So I talk a lot about personal care and personal development as well as self-care in on my social channels. And then on LinkedIn, I'm Patty Gaslin Post. I throw my maiden name in there because I've had LinkedIn like forever. It's been around for 20 years, I think. And they can learn more about Checkable and entrepreneurship. That's the content that I put out on LinkedIn. And we're at checkable.com. So if they want to come to our website, we have some in the archives, some podcasts that we've done. And I had a Persevere podcast and the Checkable Health podcast, which I love podcasts because it's just evergreen material that it's timeless. So if they want to take a listen to what we're building at Checkable, love for them to go on anywhere that they listen to a podcast, you'd find us.
Well, Patty, you've been a great guest and thank you so much for your time. Okay, Tracy, the big finish.
Absolutely, Patty, you were great. Thank you so much for joining us. Our audience is just going to love this episode. I'm so excited. We post every Tuesday on LinkedIn, Spotify, as well as Apple Podcast. So please follow us there and also check out our website, www.road2retail.com. So thank you again, Patty, for joining us, and thank you, audience. We really appreciate it.
Good luck out there, folks.